Warm welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. And we have a special guest today, Rishu Srivastava. Good morning to you in UK and good afternoon here to my listeners. Rishu, how are you doing today?
Very, very good. Thank you, Ravi, and very good afternoon to you.
Sure, great. So, Rishu, it's the first time you're coming on my show. So, I just want to do your introduction first, and then we'll go over the themes. In terms of the themes as such, if I just quickly gather, so we're looking at there's a title, there's a special episode, right? So, for every special episode, there's a title for the podcast. This is Parenting, Platforms, and Purpose. So, we'll be looking at from the first theme is from code to care. Second theme is on AI with empathy. Third one is around the platform mindset. And the fourth one, innovating with purpose. Very, very different to what I've done so far. So I'm actually looking forward to this issue.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah. Coming to your intro. So today's guest is someone who walked away from the corporate pinnacle, not because she had to, but because life cracked open something deeper. Now, Rishu Srivastava started a journey in tech, coding her way through roles from developer to business unit head, eventually reporting to the CEO of a global IT services firm. Rishu brings not just industry expertise, but academic insight as well, having studied strategy and innovation at Oxford's SED Business School. But a real transformation began not in a boardroom, but in a delivery room. Surprising? Yeah. In 2020, while on maternity leave, Rishu faced postpartum depression. Just 6 weeks after becoming a mom, she also lost her father a few weeks before the chaos of the COVID lockdown. As she navigated the weight of grief, motherhood, and healing, a new calling quietly took shape. And then came the moment that changed everything. Selfishly, I was looking at the world I leave behind for Kaira, and it scared me. So I decided to do my bit, says Rishu. So today, Rishu is a co-founder of, is it called Mindei?
Mindei.
All right. A purpose-driven startup using AI to bridge the massive gap in youth mental health support. And she brings with her a proven track record in tech and leadership, now fueled by the kind of purpose only a parent can understand. Now, in this episode, we'll talk about burnout, belief systems, the beauty of platforms, and the courage it takes to walk away from comfort to build something that truly matters. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ravi. Thanks for the introduction.
Okay. So let's move to the themes now, Rishu. We look at exploring the journey from building tech solutions to nurturing human well-being. And this first theme on code to care uncovers how personal purpose can reshape a professional path. So a couple of reflective questions, Rishu. What inspired your shift from tech innovation to impact-led initiatives? That's the first one. And how did your experience in the corporate world shape your approach to mental wellness and parenting?
Sure. Thank you. So, Ravi, I did not start with what became Mindei as a grand vision. I started with just one very basic question, and that was terrifying for me. What is the kind of world I'll leave behind for my daughter when she grows up? I had spent 15 years building products. I've managed teams, and I've navigated high pressure environments while I was working in my corporate job. But when I was about 5 months pregnant, there was a situation where both my parents were undergoing a surgery, and I was holding up well with that as well. But when it came down to postpartum depression and losing my father while Kiara was just 6 weeks old, and then, COVID happened. Nobody was prepared for COVID, right? When COVID happened, I started to feel that I'm not prepared to manage these high pressure situations. So I was grieving. I was a parent, and I had survived. It felt like I was just surviving, right? At that point in time.
Yeah.
And in that silence, something internally cracked open, and I really stopped asking questions as to what can I build next, which is what most people do when you are managing products, for example. Yeah. And I started asking myself a question as to, what pain can I prevent?
Yeah.
And in that moment, when I was asking those questions, it led to forming of Tllid. And over a period of time, Tllid became Mindei. So we pivoted from Tllid to Mindei. And when I was looking into both Tllid, so Tllid was basically a platform supporting parents right from conception to 6 years of child's life, with early brain development as a focus and the science behind early brain development. And when I was looking into that, and when we pivoted to Mindy, what surprised me was some of these statistics that aren't really globally spoken about. Like, when I was going through postpartum depression, I felt I'm the odd one out. But every one person in seven, so if there are seven mothers, one person in seven globally is
Mm.
suffering from postpartum depression. And in India, 75% of those go undiagnosed. So it is actually a failure. It is a silence, it's rare, but it is a systematic failure that is there.
Mm.
And that is what led to us. Starting off with Mindy. Of course, I had my personal reason. My co-founders had their reasons to come in, but yes, that was how innovation happened.
Mm.
So the next big idea may not come from whiteboarding or whiteboard sessions. It might just come from a breakdown. And I just listened to the questions that life was whispering to me.
Absolutely. Very touching, Rishu. I think, I've got 4 mentees that I'm mentoring, part of the incubation center at my university. And, I think while ideating, as you very rightly said, whiteboarding, we actually go to the board and write down what the venture should be. But very, very touching to actually see that, kind of a tragic, kind of a situation broke you inside, but it came out with something which is so, so useful for the society as such. So very, very nicely said there. Uh,
Thank you.
moving
Uh,
on. Go ahead, Saru.
Sorry, I'll just answer the second question
Go ahead.
as well that you had. You spoke about how the corporate experience shaped,
Yeah.
this entire mental wellness and parenting side of it. So,
Yes.
like I was telling you that, life didn't, I mean, corporate world didn't really give me the the means to navigate the personal emotional
Mm.
aspects of it,
Yeah.
but it did give me a structure, it did give me a system in which
Mm.
I could look at scaling. So
Right.
while it may not have prepared me for emotional chaos, it definitely prepared me for corporate
Mm.
chaos, if I can put it across like that. And mental health is a softer part of it, but I think it is, like I was saying, it's an issue with the system.
Mm.
So that's basically where I think the shaping of Mindy in the early days has actually helped me, because while I was looking at it from an emotional lens myself, there
Mm.
was a lot of learnings that I've carried on from my corporate experience, and
Mm.
that has helped me put some sort of a structure to build this emotional world, if I can call it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Recently we've been, there's a new kind of podcast series which we started just a month back. And one of the corporate leaders actually called me saying that, mental health is one issue that all the employees, most of them, some of them rather, actually facing. And in the corporate, right, and something which struck me just now because you spoke about it, one can't be too open about the inner struggles inside the corporate. Neither can the boss help, nor your colleagues or your friends actually help in the corporate, because in case you open up with them, you're actually perceived to be weak, and that impacts one's promotion or role changes and stuff like that. So he gave me a brief, and we came up with a new series called The Inner Office. So a couple of episodes are actually done. So just want to share with you there, and it triggered that thought, Rishu. Uh,
That's very nice, Ravi, because while you're talking about it, one of the things that strikes out. So, like you rightly said, that there's a big problem in the corporate world, and while we have been doing our own pilots, etc., one of the constant things, whether it's corporate, whether it's in the education space with the educators,
mm,
burnout is seen as a consistent problem, because
mm,
I think we live in a society which is. There's a lot of academic pressure in the
mm,
society, and
mm,
we are constantly looking at how we can be the best form of us. So
yeah,
while we are trying to outperform others or outperform our own expectations,
yeah,
we land up burning out. And the statistics are quite scary. 75 to 80% of the people are burnt out.
mm,
And I'm talking about burnout in, young people like in their early 20s. So they're just hitting the corporate world and they're feeling burnt out. So I think it's a very big problem, and I really appreciate that you've started the initiative, because it is going to be a very reflective way of going forward.
absolutely. I think the one other thing before I ask you the next question is, the focus was initially for the podcast on professionals. We basically aimed at them, and slowly it's been almost 50 episodes now, and there's a very, very strong feeling that I think the focus has to change from professionals to students now, because there's a huge number of population. If you look at India, It is n number of lakhs. I don't know the number, 8 or 9 or 10 lakhs of students actually come out of college every year, struggling to find their ropes in the corporate, and each one has got an imagination what it's going to be, and they're very very excited about the offer. Once they enter the system, there's a huge disappointment 6 months, 1 year down the line, because the expectation was something else and the reality is something else. So that is where our focus is, to actually prepare them even before they actually get there. So there's an effort going on. I'll update you as we go by, Rishu.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So moving with the second theme on AI and with empathy as such, questions are around, can technology understand human emotion? And we can actually discuss the role of empathy in designing AI that genuinely supports mental wellness. Questions are around, how do you view the role of empathy in designing tech solutions for families and children? And can artificial intelligence become a companion for mental wellness without losing the human touch?
So I'll take your first question first, which is about empathy. I think empathy isn't a feature in any product. It has to be the foundation. And when we are looking at how we can incorporate AI with empathy, there are a lot of things to be factored in. I think first of all, we need to have a mindset that we are not looking at AI replacing humans. We are looking at AI augmenting the human capacity. So if we consider it, in a slightly different way, where we look at it as a person who's just a catalyst. I'm referring to AI as person because I use AI quite a bit, and in my life, it is a person. So AI is got the ability to augment capacity and help in various ways. And I'll get to some data points because we have been talking to a lot of schools. And if you look at the ratio of counselors to children, it's absolutely ridiculous. You've got one counselor for 800 to 1,000 children. And it is impossible for that counselor to talk to these 1,000 children and understand what the problems are.
Yeah.
So the entire process becomes very overwhelming, right? I mean, a counselor cannot cope with addressing the issue of even a small fraction of 1,000, right?
Yeah.
So if there are counselors who are using AI from a self-care plan perspective, then an effort that was taking 2 hours in the past for writing a self-care plan for a child can perhaps come down to 10 to 15 minutes. Because AI can generate those plans, and then we can the counselor can look at tweaking them. But when it comes down to the real problem, which is mental health, the psychiatrist ratio is extremely poor when it comes down to India. We're talking about a 0.75 psychiatry available for about a lakh of people. And that can never be bridged, right? I mean, we are having a basic supply and demand issue. The demand is constantly increasing. There isn't enough supply. So we will have to look at how technology can support. And that is where I think AI can become a companion, which is leading me to your second question. But without losing human touch, because we still want the humans to be the ones who are facing. We just want AI to be increasing the efficiency. It is only basically augmenting the capacity, like I previously said. So I think there is space and a role for AI, but it is more in the background. It cannot be the one that's constantly, interfacing as a front end to the patients or to the customers.
Absolutely. I mean, it reminds me of, we had an episode of a trio where three leaders actually came, Rishu. So we had industry leaders like Shubhai Sengupta, who's the CHRO for Zeta, Pankaj Rai, Group Chief for Data Analytics Officer for Aditya Birla Group, and one more leader from Wells Fargo. So Shubhai was actually saying that he was just out of a meeting from his people leaders team, and his entire firm actually uses AI tools rather than create artificial intelligence tools. So he said that he briefed up his team saying that, it's good you're actually using the tools, but the human touch shouldn't actually go, right? You have to speak to your employees in person, one-to-one, because it's a huge impact. I mean, when an industry leader like Shibayu actually talks about it, it really means that, what we're actually going through as an industry. Artificial intelligence sometimes is taking away a lot of jobs. We actually see announcements on a daily basis. But here is a leader who actually says that, okay, use the tools, but, have that human touch that should never actually go. So I was able to relate to what you were saying.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely spot on because AI should not be used to replace the human touch. Its highest purpose can be seen if it protects the human element of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sure. So moving on to the third one, the platform mindset. So background is moving from products to ecosystems that empower people. And the theme reflects on building tech with community, scalability, and impact in mind. So questions, Rishu, are around how has your thinking evolved from creating software to cultivating platforms for positive change? And what lessons from the startup world have helped you scale purpose-led tech?
So, I mean, we've been through quite a journey. Early on, when we started off with Tillid, we started off with the mindset that parents need more content, but after running it for a couple of years, and we took some time, we realized that they did not need a lot of content. They were already very overwhelmed with whatever is being offered in social media as it stands today.
Right.
So it's not about offering a buffet of options. It's about offering something which is thoughtfully curated.
Mm.
Because when we are talking about parents, in our case, because we started off with Tillid, which was a parenting platform, there's just way too many things that they already have to take care of. So a well thought through curated thali is what they would potentially be looking at rather
Yeah,
than a buffet.
absolutely.
So that shifted our thinking, and we stopped building features for Tillit, and we started looking at what is it that can help, the parents. And I think about that time is when we pivoted to Mindy,
Right.
which was meant. Mindy is an ecosystem for care, as we call it, because we
Mm.
have parents who are coming in. We've got teachers, schools that we are working with. So it's all about managing the flows. How
Right.
can we help, nav- help put the flows together, make it easy when we are
Mm.
building an ecosystem.
Right.
The journey has taught us one thing, that we took too long to pivot in the very first instance. So my biggest 2 cents would be listen harder and pivot faster, because the longer you take to pivot, the chances are that you are just starting to hallucinate.
Absolutely.
So I think that is my biggest learning.
Mm.
And one of the points I would like to, mention, you spoke about scale. I wouldn't say that we have reached a scale because we are still a bootstrap startup. We are still trying to figure out, what is the product market fit. We have been in the journey for about 4 years. I think one of my biggest learnings has been that when I got into the startup ecosystem, I thought 1 year into the startup ecosystem, I'm either going to make it or break it.
Mm.
And very soon I realized that 1 year went by and now I'm in doing it for 4 years. So I think that those are the things that we have to factor in. But
Mm.
yes, when it comes down to scaling, it is extremely important to keep pivoting, identifying what is it that the problem is. We need to zoom out. So instead
Mm.
of asking the question as to, what is it that we're solving for, we just zoom out and ask what is the real pain behind all of this. Is there a pattern behind any of it?
Mm. Absolutely. So, Rishu, can you take me through the journey? Let's take an example of a child who has some kind of issues, and the parents actually approach you. Can you brief us in terms of how the process is?
So, so Mindy is into preventive mental health, and what we have been advocating to. I'm talking about schools. I know you spoke about parents, but I'm going to go to schools primarily because it's about the masses that we would like to help.
Sure.
So when we do the initial set of screenings, it kind of helps the counselors or the school management and educators identify problem areas. For example, there are 70% of your children who are going through an emotional regulation problem, or there are 30% of your children who are burnt out. So we give them, a high level overview. There are two assessments that we have. We have a digital form based assessment, which is for under 14.
Mm.
And over 14, it is a voice biomarker based assessment. So it's a
Right.
30-second voice recording that we take,
Mm.
and we run it through our AI model, and it gives out certain parameters in terms of the mental well being. And the school counselors can then look at these holistic numbers and identify who are the high risk children. So the children who are high risk, the school counselors can have a one-to-one session with them.
Right.
But anyone who is in, medium to low risk,
Mm.
it helps the school counselors identify the problem areas. And schools are anyway spending money to do life skill sessions. So what we have been telling them is that instead of just doing any life skill sessions, why don't you give coping mechanisms and strategies to children based on the problem area? So it is more outcome based.
Yeah.
That is how the narrative changes.
Right.
And the parents get involved because, of course, under 14s, that, I mean, anyways, with children, you need parental consent.
Right.
So under 14, the assessments is most likely going to be done by either the parent or the teacher.
Mm.
But at the same time, in the journey, what becomes extremely important is for the parent to also understand who they need to get in touch with.
Right.
So when I started off with Mindei, it was extremely confusing because you've got counselors, psychologists, clinical psychologists, speech therapists, psychiatrists, and then you'll be like, "Ki, whom should I get in touch with?" Right? I mean, there's so many people. I don't
Yeah.
even know whom I should get in touch with.
Right.
So it just helps because we know that a counselor is going to be able to identify the problem. They will make a referral to a
Mm.
clinical psychologist for a diagnosis if there is a problem.
Right.
But when it comes down to screening, scientifically, 70 to 80% of the adulthood problems are they are signs in teens. So by
Mm.
the age of 14, you can start seeing early signs.
Right.
So our mantra has been that if you are able to provide certain strategies and coping mechanisms to children early on,
Mm.
there's not going to be as many people who will have problems in adulthood because a lot of these things don't really need medication. They're just about giving tools for people to come out of their problems. And I think children can very, very easily pick these things up
Mm.
if they're offered to them early on.
Absolutely, Rishu. Thanks so much for going into detail. So the last theme, Rishu, is on innovating with purpose. Purpose isn't just a buzzword; it's a compass. And let's explore meaningful innovation stays aligned with long-term impact and value. So a couple of questions, and the final ones are: how do you ensure that purpose doesn't get diluted in the pursuit of innovation or funding? And what advice would you offer to professionals seeking to align their skills with deeper cause? Rishu?
So we have stayed bootstrapped, like I told you early on, and it's not that we stayed bootstrapped by choice. It's just that we are in a space which is, there are a lot of investors who have come on board in the early days into similar startups who are in mental health, and they have not seen the returns. So the VC ecosystem basically will be looking at how you can grow 10x, 20x, 30x in
Yeah.
certain period of time. So while we stayed bootstrap, one of the things we have constantly disciplined ourselves is to manage with limited funds because we've always, I mean, it sounds quite like a miser, but we never have the money. We never have the funds. So that's the mindset that we have worked with because we have never had enough money. We have
Mm.
always disciplined ourselves to build with intent, and we
Mm.
can't indulge ourselves into what we want to build.
Yeah.
We did that mistake early on where we thought that this is what the customer needs without necessarily testing it.
Mm.
And we went and we built it and we realized that it's all sunk cost because in early days you burnt the money. So now 4 years in, we are still trying to figure out what is our uh, minimum viable product. What is it going to be? What is it that's going to solve the problem? And I
Mm.
think that is what is taking us long as well.
Mm.
There have been enough and more VC rejection, and every rejection actually, it stings, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of it, you feel bad that you're not worthy
Yeah.
enough for an investment.
Yeah.
But in our case, it's also made us stronger because
Mm.
every time we get to hear a no,
Mm.
there are some people who have been very kind to offer some feedback as well. So
Mm.
that helps us sharpen our thinking. It also helps us to listen closely as to what is going to be more meaningful.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we are in a situation that whatever we are building, it's not been done before. So, from a research perspective, there isn't enough investment that is there.
Mm.
So in India, the investment is not there for deep tech. And when it comes down to mental health, it's even less.
Yeah.
So it has been hard. We have learned to work with limited resources.
Mm.
We have been running extremely lean, and it's quite sad that in India the average time for identifying an emotional distress in a school setting takes anywhere between 9 to 12 months. So I think when you look at the time period where a problem identification to giving help, it is
Mm.
extremely long. So
Right.
anything that we can do to reduce that
Mm.
is basically going to help us. So
Yeah.
for us, funding has been an issue. But what we have learned is that funding can only fuel scale.
Yeah.
But even before the scale comes the clarity.
Absolutely.
So we have learned to build with limited resources and just identify what is it that is going to work. And I think that you had a question about advice,
Yeah. The
I
last one
suppose.
is, yeah, what advice would you offer to professionals seeking to align their skills with the deeper cause? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, we'll never have perfect clarity.
Mm.
Anyone who is looking to aligning their skills with deeper cause, I suppose you hit an age where what is generally called as a mid-age crisis. That's where people start asking, "What's my purpose in life?"
Correct.
And I think it is because it's somewhere around 35 to 40 where people will be like, I don't know what I'm doing, because you've been enough in the corporate world or some sort of a job,
Yeah.
and you may not feel that it is satisfying. I've been through it, and I
Mm.
also feel that I've been through a perennial mid-age crisis because every other year I would be asking myself, what am I doing? So I suppose there's never a perfect clarity or a good timing,
Yeah.
but it just starts with for me it started with what breaks my heart.
Mm.
I just listen to it, and
Mm.
I know it might sound like a cliche or um, an emotional aspect of it, but I
Mm.
think there comes a time when you start looking at what after you, right?
Yeah.
And what is the kind of world that you're living in? And when we look at everything that's going on at this point in time, I mean, it's sad to even go to a news channel and read anything.
Yes.
It just helps to learn what's happening, what are the skills, and just identify how we can help in any form or way.
So,
I don't think purpose is a job title. It's
mm.
just a question that you can't ignore. So just start there and build from there.
Absolutely, Rishu. Thanks so much. Since I've been talking to these young founders, right, four of them are into four different actually ventures, and I opened up my own network. So even before they have incorporated the company and still in the ideation phase, next week is when they're going to give the presentations with the VC. They've already spoken with corporate heads that I'm in touch with, and those guys also have opened up their own network, suggested friends, top guys to actually talk to. So a lot of discussions have actually happened just over a period of 1.5 months, where I can actually see the kind of self-esteem or self-confidence actually growing. That a person 2 months before just had kind of an idea that this might actually work. Now spoken to five different people, top shots in the industry, who are very, very genuine and actually giving them advice, are in a better position now, at least confident enough to actually pitch next week. Uh, I think each of us actually go through different kind of journeys. I think I've been a founder and I've incorporated my firm, Equity, back in 2017. It's an 8-year-old company into learning and leadership development. It was never easy. I thought with 15 years of experience at my back, I was 10 years with HSBC, 5 years with Wells Fargo, US Bank, UK Bank. When I came out of the corporate, that's when I understood that, okay, it's a very, very different world outside. And friends vanished. A couple of them actually were there. And it was a lonely, very, very lonely journey. There were highs, there were deep lows. But I think, as you said, you mentioned about being resilient. when the VC actually doesn't give you and kind of insults you, it does hurt very deep. But at the same time, once you go through it multiple times, it brings in a kind of stubbornness from within that, I won't believe a VC. I believe in my own idea. And that happened to me as well. And, it helps to build up the strength and the muscle of resilience, Rishu. Thanks a lot for a lot of
Thank you.
inputs. Yeah. Lot of lovely inputs. I think post this particular episode, I'm going to share this with my kids. That's what I call them, my mentees, and I think they're going to love it without doubt. And maybe I'll ping you and have a conversation with them so that they also know how exactly practically on the ground venture takes off. So
Absolutely.
we did cover a couple of themes around this just as a summary. We looked at reflective questions on the shift from tech innovation to impact-led initiative. We looked at AI with empathy and whether technology can understand human emotion. We looked like moving from products to ecosystems that empower people. And finally, in terms of innovating with purpose, we explored how meaningful innovation stays aligned with long-term impact and value. So, Rishu, I think lovely conversation. And, I'll just remind you what you told me before we started off. It's on record. It's a beautiful conversation, right? I never thought, never really planned. I just wrote the questions. But as you were talking, I was able to relate and share my own experience. So I think wonderful interview. You were saying it's the first one. It looks like it was your 100th one. Very well done.
Thank you, Ravi. That's very kind.
Right. I had a very good time. I don't know how it was for you, but I had a great time. This 45 minutes, I think.
Same here. Thank you so much, Ravi, and thank you for getting me on to talk about my journey.
Sure. And I think I'll pull you in for another episode, maybe in 6 months' time, Rishu. I'll be in touch. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Ravi.
Super. Very nice. What was that? All done.
Was it as you expected?
No, it was more than expected.
I did, maybe it's at some places you might have to edit it out because I was finding it hard to figure out some words. But
didn't appear. I'll anyway go through it once again. It takes an hour for this to give me the video. I'll go through it again, and what I'll do is I'll dump it on a YouTube private mode and share with you. So you also go through it. And what I normally do is I'll release one small teaser tonight, and I think your episode will come most likely in August. I'll give you the date as well. The complete episode.
Sure, yeah. I mean, whenever. I just hope it meets your expectations.
No, it does. It is at least 10x times because, you're very, very genuine, Rishu. I think many people will be able to relate to what you actually said because you didn't use any high-flying words. Exactly. You started off with a heartbreak. And, many of us actually go through that. I think people will be able to relate to what you actually said. So, far, far better than what I did. I've done more than 50 now. I think it's one of the best, I should say. Not just lying just for the sake of it, but yeah, one of the best from the heart. Excellently done. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ravi. See you. Bye-bye.